Nekopara is a 12-episode slice-of-life comedy series released in 2020 about a pastry chef running a patisserie with the help of the family catgirls. Overall reception is on the upper end of middling, with reviews that average out to 6 or 7 out of 10. But is it worth a watch? Let's find out, shall we? Nekopara is an adaptation of the identically titled visual novel series, of which I am a massive, unapologetic fan, which got me pretty hyped to watch the anime. So in this video, I will be judging Nekopara as both an adaptation and a standalone product. Alright, let's get started. First things first, I think Nekopara looks and sounds great. The art doesn't have the same vibrancy and detail as the visual novels or the OVA from 2017, but it still looks pretty good. The character design all around is great, and the animation definitely nailed the cute factor that a moe anime like this really needs. The music does a good job of immersing the viewer, and though none of the tracks really stood out, they were all well produced and did their job effectively. Of course, you can simply judge the art for yourself by looking at the video. Due to copyright issues, I can't play the music for you, but it's easy enough to find on your own. Story-wise, the Nekopara anime has several significant deviations from the visual novels. For starters, the anime stripped away all romance plotlines, meaning main character Kashou does not go Shane Dawson on the cats. Additionally, there is an anime original character added to the ensemble cast, a kitten named Cacao. The core premise of the show is that Kashou runs his patisserie where he lives alongside his catgirls Chocolat and Vanilla. Cacao eventually moves in with them. The other 4 catgirls, Azuki, Coconut, Maple, and Cinnamon, live with Kashou's sister Shigure, though they regularly help out at the shop. The series is constructed in a very sitcom-esque manner. With the exception of Cacao's introduction to the family, which spans several episodes, there are no persistent plot threads. Rather, low-stakes conflicts are introduced and resolved within the span of a single episode, after which things return to the status quo. One thing I really like about the anime compared to the visual novels is that it really leaned into the fact that these are catgirls rather than humans with cat features. Though the visual novels would give the girls the occasional feline mannerism, they often just felt like normal people. But the anime says, nah, these cats are gonna act like fucking cats. Azuki and Coconut periodically get on all fours and yowl at each other. Cacao arches her back and hisses when Shigure tries to bathe her. They all get distracted by laser pointers and bits of string dangling in front of their faces. At one point, 2 of the cats poke their head into a cardboard box and immediately fall asleep. When Chocolat gets agitated or excited, she has difficulty talking because she starts uncontrollably meowing. This was all very charming, and I kinda wish this was the direction the visual novels took with the catgirls. I genuinely loved it. Due to the sitcom structure of the show, we never get a particularly deep dive into any of the characters. However, all the catgirls have vibrant and over-the-top personalities which do a great job at keeping everything entertaining, and the overall chemistry of the cast is top-notch. The one exception would be Kashou himself. In the visual novels, I think he's a great protagonist who really drove the stories with his dynamic with the catgirls and his own internal stuff he needed to work through. However, with the romance gone and long-term stories non-existent in the anime, Kashou kind of lost everything he had as a character. He's been downgraded from protagonist to pretty much a background character. This is more of a problem for a fan of the visual novels than an anime only, since the rest of the ensemble cast is more than enough to keep you entertained. Occasionally, the show will give you a slightly deeper look at 1 or 2 of the cats in an episode. Oftentimes this is done via abridged or altered versions of storylines taken from the visual novels, such as Maple's desire to be a singer, the rivalry between Azuki and Coconut, or how Chocolat and Vanilla are highly codependent as a result of their shared past as stray kittens. In a sitcom setting like the anime, it works perfectly well and drives the short-term plot, though it does feel a bit empty when you compare it to the visual novels, which explored those same themes in much greater depth. It just needs to be remembered that the Nekopara anime is much more of an in-the-moment kind of story, where you have to focus on the immediate conflict which will be solved in the short term. In the first episode of the series, the kitten Cacao was introduced. I was initially pretty skeptical as she did not appear in the visual novels. My hesitancy was for 2 reasons. Firstly, anime-only characters don't have a great track record in general when it comes to adaptations. Secondly, I didn't see the point. There was already a full ensemble cast of memorable characters, 6 catgirls plus Shigure, who is quite the character in her own right. Even with Kashou being one-dimensional, that's still plenty to keep a sitcom going. However, by the end of the season, and realistically the series, let's be real here, Nekopara's probably not getting a second season, she really grew on me. Partly due to the fact that she's already a pretty great character. She's very reclusive and quiet in contrast to literally all the other cats, but she has a very sweet personality underneath, which led to a lot of very cute moments which, as I mentioned before, are what this series thrives on. Additionally, the fact that Cacao is a kitten allows for unique character dynamics to be explored that not even the visual novels were able to do to any real degree. Chocolat eagerly took up the big sister role, Shigure showcased the dynamic of raising a kitten, and Cacao even made friends with a human girl so we got to see 2 kids going on adventures together. And Cacao was also the focus of episode 11, which I'd argue was probably my favorite. It really solidified the love that she has for her new family, and had the series continued past season 1, it would have been a defining relationship moment for the series going forward. It's hard not to like her after all that. Plus, she probably has the most character development of anyone in the series. Of course, it's nowhere near the level of the visual novels, where all 6 of the catgirls plus Kashou had fully fleshed out character arcs, but I'll take what I can get. After watching Nekopara, I am firmly pro Cacao now. So Nekopara as a series is largely a cute, wholesome one. I would even say that most of it is quite family friendly. But then you have to contrast that with the fact that this series is incredibly horny with a surprising amount of fan service. Look, I expected there to be some. After all, the visual novels are eroge with plenty of sexual content with all the cats, so it would make sense for the anime to have a few nods towards that. But it really leans into it. They'll take every opportunity to show off a close-up of catgirl ass. Like that image I used in the thumbnail, assuming YouTube doesn't make me change it, was from episode 1, and I had to edit it a bit just to be safe. In the visual novels, Cinnamon's main gag is that she's perpetually horny and will occasionally get caught up in her fantasies. Well, I didn't know it was possible, but her anime counterpart might be even more horny. More than half of her dialogue is sexual in some capacity. She'll regularly declare that she's getting moist. She gets distracted by things such as pollination and the existence of babies, due to how they get produced. And at one point in the series, Cacao paws at her chest in that way that real cats paw at people, and she has a full-on orgasm. I'm not kidding. And on top of that, there are regular jokes and innuendos throughout that aren't even all that subtle. Hell, in the visual novels, one of Shigure's running gag is that she's a massive brocon, a fact that Kashou is utterly oblivious about. It's a funny bit, and in the context of an 18+ visual novel, it fits. Well, it actually features in the anime as well, though in only a single episode where they showed flashbacks of her unsuccessfully attempting to seduce Kashou, complete with cringe. It's overall very surprising to see just how fanservice-y this series is when you consider the fact that the general story beats and overall themes of the show are pretty tame all things considered. I'm not complaining, mind you. Sexual stuff in media does not bother me at all, but it feels a bit tonally inconsistent. And one thing I do have to complain about a bit is that even with only 12 episodes and a massive cast to support it, the humor of the Nekopara anime was not as well thought out as I think it should have been. Now, things like animation gags and the character quirks were great all around, but I feel like a lot of the actual jokes ended up being completely uninspired. Most of the characters have their one main quirk, and the show just reuses that quirk in ways that aren't really all that clever. Azuki has her Napoleonic complex, Cinnamon is horny, Coconut is clumsy, Chocolat is an adorable dumbass, Shigure is a crazy cat lady. These are all funny, but the series leans so heavily into these quirks that they end up essentially using the same set of jokes over and over. Hell, you know that one trope where the wife greets her husband when he gets home from work and says, "Would you like a dinner? A bath? Or me?" Well, in the 12 episodes of the Nekopara anime, they had a variation of that joke 3 separate times. It was funny the first time, mildly amusing the second time, and completely played out by the third time. I feel like if you're going to be writing a comedy series, you have to keep things fresh and interesting. The funny character quirks are a great baseline, and honestly the visual novels give the show writers great source material to work off of. But the art of comedy shines when you take that great foundation of characters and find new and unique ways to utilize them. And I feel like the Nekopara anime was lacking in that regard. Not to the point where it wasn't enjoyable, but there was definitely some missed potential there. Overall, I had a pretty good time with Nekopara. It's not my favorite show in the world, and I don't think it did the visual novels justice at all, but I would say that if moe catgirl comedy is the kind of thing you're into, Nekopara is probably worth a watch. Even if you're a fan of the visual novels, as long as you understand that the anime doesn't have the spark that made the VN special, there's some fun to be had here. And since the story takes a different direction entirely, you don't have to worry about just covering the same ground as before. So Nekopara does get my recommendation, with the caveat that this has to be the kind of thing you like. If it doesn't seem like your kind of thing, you're probably right. But read the visual novels. They are so much better than they have any right to be. I'll be making a video on them once Volume 5 releases because goddammit I love them so much. Thanks for watching. Big thank you to my patrons, especially my God tier supporters, Bulk Squat Thrust and Michael Rotolo. Consider joining them for perks such as early access and in-video credit. If you enjoyed the video, it really helps to leave a like and subscribe if you want more. And please do leave any anime recommendations in the comments. I do still plan on getting a video like this out every week or two in between the big ones that take dozens of hours of work. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Play the electro swing.
I hate ads!
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack.